End of the road trip and probably the end of their fading playoff hopes. Canucks fall 3-1 to the Winnipeg Jets. We're breaking it down now on Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios on a sunny Sunday afternoon. An early start for the Vancouver Canucks and maybe the end of their playoff hopes with just 8 games remaining. They were game at the end of the road trip, put up a fight for 40 minutes, but in the end, the Winnipeg Jets, the best team in the National Hockey League, their quality took over. And oh yeah, they've got that goaltender that basically doesn't give up anything. Canucks open the scoring. The Jets score 3 unanswered. 3-1 is the final score. It's Rink Wide Vancouver. It's Jeff Patterson along with Patrick Johnson, PJ from Post Media, sitting in with us this afternoon. And we're looking forward to getting his thoughts on this game and this road trip. Rink Wide brought to you in part by Bet365. The chat is heating up just like the Vancouver weather. As I said, a little sunshine here. So hopefully the Canuck loss doesn't spoil what's left of your weekend. But if you want your comments to get through to us here, we go right to the top of the heap. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Our Super Chat charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Jets take the season series from the Vancouver Canucks by a score of 2-1. The first 2 games were fairly one-sided in both directions. The Canucks with maybe their best effort of the season. When they saw the Jets a couple of weeks ago, Jets skated circles around the Canucks when Kyle Connor had a first-period hat-trick back in mid-January. Kyle Connor was going to be heard from in this game. He's too good, up to 38 goals. He started the ball rolling for the Jets midway through the hockey game after Pia Suter had opened the scoring late in the first. But in the end, as I said, Pat, quality rose to the top here this afternoon.
Exactly. I mean, I said it to you while we were watching, but the fact that, those 2 chances in the third where Niels Oman and Teddy Bluer kind of said everything else, and not knocking on them. I mean, they're playing hard. They're like the rest of the team, but they are not JT Miller or Elias Pettersson, for instance. The challenge of the Canucks came home to roost today, which is that they're just lacking in finish, lacking in offensive talent. And as you said, Kyle Connor got it done, did what they needed to do. And the MVP chance at the end, right? The Canucks played well. They tested Connor Hellebuck. He didn't have to be outstanding, but he still made a bunch of saves, and that's why he's been in the conversation all season.
So the Canucks suffer their 27th outright loss of the year. They're 34-27-13. They remain on 81 points. And the road record that has kept them in this playoff chase for the most part, it takes another hit here. They go 2-2-2 on the 6-game road trip. So they get 6 points out of the 6 games, but just 2 victories, 2 outright losses, and then 2 in that other category. And so the road record is now 19-14-6. If you add it all up, it's 19 wins and 20 losses. So you kind of thought maybe there'd be some regression. They were almost too good away from home in the early going, and they needed more. Whatever. I don't know what the number ultimately was, but they needed more than 6 points from these 6 games on the road trip. I
mean, I just think about 3-2-1 would have looked a lot better. They went away on the road. You kind of said they got to win 4. I mean, winning 3 was still only half of the games, but, you're coming away with 7 points. I mean, it's just that 1 point on Friday, to me, is just, that was the story right there. Once they gave it away, the math is too hard. I mean, you figured they were going to lose this one. The degree of difficulty from here is they're going to have to go like 7-1 to even have a chance, and that depends on either the Blues falling apart or the Wild falling apart, and the latter seems more likely at this point. I hate to pour cold water right off the bat here, but this is a good hockey game. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was good through 2 periods. It was tight, but the tiredness in the end, that too many men with the goalie pulled. The fact that it took them 2 minutes to get a shot, like it's sad to watch. It's tough to watch that this is a team that's had so much potential and has just kind of fizzled out.
And can we say a prayer for Derek Forbert?
Cole Perfetti, holy smokes! I mean, I hate to dump on this, but that's the 2020 draft. Like went one pick after Dylan Guenther, and Canucks just don't have young. I mean, they got Lekar Mackey, and we're still, he's had his moments, but Yeah, Derek Forbort. I mean, Derek Forbort's been such a solid competitor for
Yes.
this team. That's why it was so tough to watch, and to see him beat like that was surprising. But I suppose when you're going all out for as long as the Canucks have been going, we are going to see a game where they just start firing blanks in all aspects like they were.
Right, and look, we break it all down from all angles here on Rink Wide. We do it all season, and we'll continue to do it. They've got 8 games remaining, and so you're right. I don't want to pick on Derek Forbort, but that was a pivotal point of the game because it came moments after Teddy Bluger had the best look for the Vancouver Canucks in the third period to tie the game at 2. And earlier in the period, Teddy Bluger, for whatever reason, had all day in front of the net and elected to try to play it off to the left side to Marcus Pettersson. Neither one of them a goal scorer, but Teddy, take your shot, man. Shoot your shot in that moment.
Well, or take it to the net. Like, listen, I get you're in the moment. And I think Dave Thomason said it on the broadcast. Like, you kind of get in the moment, you get pass in your head, and so you stop kind of moving your feet. And that was a moment. Just move your feet, take to the net. Like, just see what happens. Create a mess. You've got people piling to the net. Yeah, I mean, Teddy Bluger has been a hardworking Vancouver Canuck. Scoring goals is, in the end, has not been his NHL strength. And we saw why, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we just showed the highlight. They were carried on the 2-on-1, and it was a 2-1 hockey game. He gets a 2-on-1, doesn't score, and moments later, the Jets go back the other way. That's when Perfetti walked Derek Forbort, and then in the act of falling down, snaps it high up on Thatcher Demko. I think ultimately you can boil this thing down to the fact that the Jets' best players were better than the Canucks' best players. In goal, Connor Hellebuyck, a little bit better than Thatcher Demko, but it was a goaltending duel through 40 minutes of play, and it was a question of who was going to blink, and ultimately Thatcher Demko gets beaten on a scramble in front. Not a lot that he could do there on the Appleton goal, and then again, I mean, Perfetti, that's big-time move and a big-time shot, but 2 goals scored in the third period. They were both by the Winnipeg Jets, both on the Vancouver Canucks end of the ice, and Connor Hellebuyck does what he's done all season and shuts the door, and so the goaltending matchup swung towards the Jets, and then up front, I mean, look at the score sheet. After Pius Suter opens the scoring for the Vancouver Canucks, Kyle Connor gets his 38th of the season. Nikolai Ehlers is in on the Appleton goal. Perfetti, who's a depth scorer, but he's got 16 goals, and you see that kind of skill in a tight hockey game. I mean, the Canucks didn't let Kyle Connor skate circles around them. Like the last time they were in there, Mark Scheifele picked up an assist on the Connor goal, but it wasn't a banner afternoon or evening for Mark Scheifele. Josh Morrissey gives you a lot and had the puck on his stick a bunch on Winnipeg power plays, but the Canucks go 4 for 4 on the penalty kill. And that was part of the story early in this hockey game as well. Atu Ratu gets called for a slash, and 53 seconds later, Teddy Bluger on a high stick, and all of a sudden, you're putting this power play that's 34% on home ice this season, a minute and 7 seconds, 5-on-3, and the Canucks dug in. Like, their penalty killing was exceptional, as it's been really since Christmas, but in that moment against this vaunted Winnipeg power play, game could have got away from the Canucks in the early going. It didn't, so credit to the penalty killers, and with Bluger, who is always one of the first forwards over the boards to kill penalties, he's off. So Pius Suter he stepped in at part of that 5-on-3. I think Pius Suter ended up killing 2+ minutes in the first period alone, hit the crossbar when it was still scoreless, and then a lengthy review that went down to the millimeters. How many reviews and how many replays did we see in here in studio? We both thought, it's probably offside at some, just this tiny little level, but what do we know?
Like I said, that high angle, the first angle that was above the blue line, I mean, it looked onside. The other two, I think it was offside. It felt like it was a bit of one of those, well, we don't have anything to really confirm, 100% overturn. They didn't say it, but it felt like certainly nothing to overturn. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great goal, and it was a nice, opportunist goal for a team that had battled pretty well, kept things tight, and they kept things tight for 40 minutes, and stayed. You mentioned the power play, the success on the PK has been such an important part of the story. But I know we're going to talk about the flip side later, I think. But it's just that the defensive game has been there for the most part this season, other than Friday night. But the defensive game's been there, and it's just in the end we're running into that power outage that they're struggling with, and they just need a little bit more.
Right. So, I look at the way the thing shakes down. I mean, they hold the Winnipeg Jets to 27 shots. The final shots in the hockey game are 27-24. And yeah, after the disaster that was in Columbus not even 48 hours ago, you kind of figured that Rick Tocchet would be able to snap his guys back to attention, and they did, and against a much better opponent than the Columbus Blue Jackets. And so, you look at the recent games here, the Jersey Devils, the Islanders, Columbus the other night, Canucks offense came alive. They benefited from the fact that the other teams didn't get a whole lot of goaltending. The Canucks didn't get much goaltending the other night. Those teams are all sort of hovering. I mean, Jersey's in the playoffs, so the Islanders and Columbus fighting like the Canucks are. But none of those teams is built to win the Stanley Cup this year the way the Winnipeg Jets are, their 51st victory of the season. And so that's why I said, I don't want to come down too hard on the Canucks at the tail end of a road trip. As understaffed as they are, to hang with the Jets for 40 minutes, they were out shooting Winnipeg through 2 periods of play, but pretty hard to beat the Jets with just 1 goal. And ultimately, the Canucks opened the scoring for the 5th straight game, 8th in their last 9. They haven't let games get away from them early, but there are 3 periods, and you got to be able, in these tight games, you got to find a way. Look, they did earlier in the trip, right? In St. Louis and in New Jersey, they were down. I even said to you when it was 2-1, like I said, you can't write these guys off because already twice on this trip they have found a way to squeeze out a tying goal to get it to overtime. But the Perfetti goal really was the proverbial dagger in this one, and at 3-1, there was no comeback in the offing for the Vancouver Canucks.
You took the stat right out of my mouth. I was going to point out 5 games. I mean, remember we were talking about this team couldn't score, open the scoring, and they did it 5 games in a row. I mean, if there's one thing we can say that's, I guess, positive, I mean, it's tough, but positive about this road trip is this team has showed up every night, right? Like even the St. Louis game, not a great start, but they came back. They battled their way in the 3rd period, tied it up late. Every game this road trip, there's been signs of effort, signs of desire, signs of wanting to be there. A team that, you look at and say, well, it was the question of, well, if they get in, what do you think? Like, they could do something if they get in. That's why. But in the end, they're coming up too short too often. And the fact is that, in the crucial moment like they did today, they just looked like a team that was playing the 6th game of a road trip, has been on the road forever, been all over the place, and just running out of answers.
And, I mean, this is not why they lost the hockey game, but it's interesting to note that both times in Winnipeg this year, the Canucks were at the tail end of a 5-game road trip in January, a 6-game road trip. They love to stop off in the Central and try and knock off a little bit of time change and work in one more game as they come on home. But twice against the Jets at the tail end of, I don't care if you were rested up for a week, it was going to be difficult going into Winnipeg, but at the back end of a road trip like this one, and in the end, they just didn't have enough after 2 periods of play. They lose by a score of 3-1. This is Rink Wide Vancouver. Let's get to the 3 stars of this hockey game. The representation of Greta Bar YVR. 3 stars is selected in the building. Mason Appleton is the first star. He got the game winner, but I didn't notice Mason Appleton a ton in this hockey game, but a little home cooking for him. Kyle Connor is the second star, and Cole Perfetti probably deserves some love just for that goal alone, his 16th. So a clean sweep for the Winnipeg Jets. So we'll take a slightly different look here on Rink Wide. I like Kyle Connor. His speed is noticeable.
Oh, so fun.
On just about every shift. He's dangerous when he has the puck on his stick. Canucks backed in. Was it Myers and Forbert on the goal? We wondered, did it deflect off somebody or did it just beat Thatcher Demko cleanly? I think in the end, quick release off the rush. If there was a downfall there, though, it was just the gap that you can't allow Kyle Connor to walk into the top of the circles. You can't. And Forbert and Myers with their reach, you would think maybe a little more preventative, but Kyle Connor.
I suppose you double that with the Perfetti. Forbert looking a little hesitant covering off on a rush, although, of course, it wasn't quite on his side. But anyway, you're exactly right. Like, backed off too much.
So Kyle Connor, the first star with a goal and an assist. He's in on 2 of the 3 scoring plays there. And as I said, just he's a handful. He's come into his own. 38 goals in the season now. He's a top 5 scorer in the National Hockey League. There's that level of McDavid, McKinnon, Draisaitl, but he's very much in the next tier, without a doubt, and just dangerous. As we said, 3 shots, 8 attempts. So another big afternoon for Kyle Connor. Connor Hellebuck is the second star, makes the save that he had to on Teddy Bluger, and really the Canucks didn't generate a lot in that 3rd period. Talked about when the goalie pulled. Really, by then they're down 2, so it was more when the game was hanging in the balance, but Hellebuck closes the door. Patrick had a shutout against the Jersey Devils the other day. he gives up 1 goal over the weekend. Like, that's what this guy does, and he's got 42 wins on the season now. I know that there's going to be some heat on him come playoff time because he does have to get it right after what happened last year. But he looks determined, and the guys in front of him look determined. And so Connor Hellebuck, the second star, and Pius Suter, who had an incredible road trip. And you talk about guys that answer the challenge of being forced higher in the lineup, getting additional minutes, opportunities. We said he rang one off the crossbar, and that was a great play too, that Hronek spotted him at the side of the net. You know, Hellebuck's so big, doesn't give you much, but he dropped down, and there was a little bit of daylight over the shoulder, and boy, he didn't miss by much. Pinged it off the crossbar, but he was just getting warmed up there. He does beat Hellebuck off the rush, set up by Myers for the Canucks' only goal. 22nd of the season. There are 8 games to go. It's not out of the question that Pius Suter is going to win this derby. He's 2 back of DeBrusk and Brock Besser for the team lead. But there you go. Those are the 3 stars. Kyle Connor, Connor Hellebuck, and Pius Suter. 3 stars, a presentation of Greta Bar YVR, hosted another Canucks Army viewing party on April 10th, and you are invited. Vancouver at Colorado. Make sure you join us and experience Greta for yourself. All the big screens, all of those arcade games when the action on the ice isn't going on. You can test yourself in one of the many arcade games that ring the bar. Order off the terrific new street food menu. They've got weekly drink specials as well. Greta Bar, the place to be. 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar. Let the games begin. Just a thought on what we've seen from Pius Suter over the last week to 10 days.
It's been actually pretty remarkable. Like a player that we knew was going to be a solid addition, has been a solid addition. Everyone loves using the Swiss Army knife analogy. But really asked to play a bigger role than he's ever really played in a crucial time of the year. This guy's going to get paid. Like he has done everything the Canucks asked him to do, and I think more. He's scored. He's taken big draws. He's making the players around him better. Like, Brock Besser didn't score tonight, but Brock Besser's been pretty good on this road trip, and he's been playing with Pius Suter. Just a guy that you rarely say, man, what was he? I don't know if I've ever said, what is Pius Suter doing on that play, right? Just a fantastic effort from this guy, and we're looking for positives here. There's a great one. There's a guy that really has been doing everything he can to get the Vancouver Canucks where they still hope to get to, even if it's looking long and unlikely.
Yeah, and I guess now that the Canucks are coming off the road, I would assume Monday will be a day off when they've been away for 10 days, give them a chance to see family and friends, and they don't play till Wednesday now. They're at home to Seattle. So on Tuesday...
Must win, Jeff.
That ship, I think, as I look out in the harbor, I think it has left port. But they're not mathematically eliminated, so they're going to give you the same line that, head down, bounce back, and they have responded and did on the road trip, but there's 8 to go now, and there's 6 points back of both St. Louis and Minnesota, and ultimately we'll see by the time they step on the ice on Wednesday, who are they chasing? The Blues show no signs of slowing down. Minnesota's out in an Eastern road trip now, lost to Jersey yesterday, and will play Jersey again. When I look at Pius Suter, though, the production has been great. I always look at the ice time now. I mean, he is clearly their number one center in the absence of Elias Pettersson. 21 minutes and 4 seconds. So another night here on this road trip where they've asked him to really step up and increase the workload. But my point was, Monday a day off, practice on Tuesday. Maybe we'll get an update on any of these injured guys. Will we see Elias Pettersson back on the ice at practice? Nils Höglander. Nobody seems to know what happened to Höglander and what forced him out of that game against the Rangers and ultimately off the road trip. And Philip Hedl, it's just been so quiet that, I think I'd be surprised if we see Philip Hedl over this.
Yeah, especially with the stakes being so low now that it's why risk it? I mean, the Hedl one doesn't surprise me. It felt pretty grim when we talked to Tocchet before they left. And just sort of the timing of it all. I mean, rushing him back. If everything had gone well on the protocol, he was going to be out a week anyway. So that maybe he could have come back midweek. But it just felt like one of those ones they were worried about, and you had the sense there was just not that they're ever going to rush a head injury anyway, but that they really were going to take this one cautiously. So you're right. Like it's been a strange one. Obviously, we're stuck here. We would have tried to figure out what's going on, but I've heard so little about either player. Other than Höglander you get sent home. It's clear he's not back anytime soon, and that was kind of confirmed to me. I poked around a little bit, but I still don't know what's wrong with him. Pedersen, we're sort of guessing maybe, I guess it's his arm or something, but really don't actually know as well. Other than it was a player who looked very uncomfortable when we last saw him play against New York.
Yeah, wincing in pain as he took the faceoff and then was waved out of the faceoff circle. So yeah, that was strange. Tanya B says, "Keep the faith. 6 points is only 3 wins." Yeah, but here's the problem.
Yeah, they have
3
to win more.
wins is they only play 3 times in the next week, and so do St. Louis and Minnesota. And even if the Canucks win their next 3 by next Sunday, pretty good chance that the gap is going to have widened, or at least they won't be able to chip away. So we'll see. I mean, I get it. If you're a hardcore fan, hey, keep the faith until they're mathematically eliminated. They're going to play these games, and they've got Seattle and they've got Anaheim their next 2. Like those, there are no freebies for the Canucks. We've learned that this season, but. The challenge in the next 3 is Vegas on the back end of back-to-backs next Sunday.
Yeah.
And then that starts a run of Vegas, Dallas, Colorado.
On the road, like Dallas, Colorado on the road. I remember when I was doing this breakdown yesterday, and you just sort of look at the reality of it all. Because just to be clear, they have to finish on points ahead of the Wild and the Blues. Like, they can't even tie them, right? Like on tiebreaker. So they have to have this incredible run, and they're going to play 2 road games against Dallas and Colorado, and you're like, okay, maybe they can steal one, but like they can't. Like that shows you how narrow the edge is here. That and I noted they have this game here. There are 3 remaining road games yesterday. Were today in Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado. 3 outstanding teams that are going to be in Stanley Cup consideration. That's how tough it is. So yes, keep the faith. I get it, fans. It's going to be fun. I mean, I think that's the one thing we can say. Like this team is trying. They're putting out an effort. This is a far, far different squad than we saw, for instance, on that early January road trip when they beat the Leafs, but think how poor they were against the Hurricanes.
Well, think about the road trip out of the 4 Nations break.
Yeah,
they won 1 of 5 games
and looked,
there.
Just looked hopeless and just no drive. And like this is a younger group. I mean, I didn't do the math. I didn't go check tonight, but certainly on Friday that was the 6th youngest roster in the NHL. Which is, if they say this is a young team, they aren't lying. Like there's a lot of youth in this roster. But there's still enough there. You look at Brock Besser, you look at Quinn Hughes, you look at Philip Hronek, you look at Tyler Myers. There's enough there for them to be more than they've been.
I want to get to the stat that stands out, because this takes us into another talking point to come out of this hockey game this afternoon. And the stat that stands out is brought to you by Resurrection Spirits. Our stat that stands out, and if you're watching the live stream, you can see it there. The Canucks went 0 for 3 on the power play today against the Jets, and scored on the power play in just 1 of 6 games out on the road trip. Yes, they got a pair the other day against Columbus, and that helped them get a single point. But really, you look at the weekend, 1 of a possible 4 points when they needed every point available to them. So the power play came through for them in the first period the other night. That was the only period on this entire trip that the Canucks cashed in on the power play. And here, Patrick, Pius Suter scores, Jets challenge, the lengthy challenge and review, and the goal stands. And as a result, the Jets are shorthanded. Like, what an opportunity there for the Vancouver Canucks to really apply some pressure. And the power play looked horrible.
Oh,
it carried over into the second period, fresh ice and all that, and again, nothing. And then later in that second period, and I think it was still 1-0 for the Canucks when Luke Schenn got called for interference. No, it was a 1-1 tie. So Jets had scored. Kyle Connor had scored to tie the game. And then Luke Schenn, with 3 minutes to go in the second period, gets called for interference. Again, an opportunity for this Canuck power play. Now, the one late in the second looked better than the previous 2. They did. It took a bit of a slow build. They started to work it up. I think, Linus Karlsson on the doorstep that kind of spun around, and I thought maybe was going to find a way, but what a sentence to say. Your season hanging in the balance. It's Linus Karlsson on the doorstep. And Connor Hellebuyck was there to make that stop.
Yeah.
So power play showed some signs of life in the second period, but 0 for 3 on the afternoon. And, there were no power play goals, so they didn't lose the special teams battle.
No.
But they didn't win it either. And really, it's, as Rick Tocchet has talked a lot down the stretch about moments, at 1-0 late in the first period where you've opened the scoring and have done well to get in front. What a power play goal there to take a 2-0 lead. I mean,
Yeah.
not game over. They squandered a 3-0 lead the other day, so 2-0 against the Jets was not a fait accompli, but it certainly would have given the Canucks a little bit of a boost at a pivotal point in the hockey game.
When you're looking, I mean, the reason we talk about moments is that there aren't many, and you look at a team like Winnipeg, 51 wins. First team, by the way, Jeff, have you picked up on this? First team since the 2011 Canucks to win, or first Canadian team since the 2011 Canucks to win 50 games in a season. Truly remarkable. I mean, that's how good this team has been. So you're not going to get a lot of opportunities, and so that's why that power play to me just looked so crucial, and just for it to be so underwhelming, especially after picked up a couple power play goals on Friday night against obviously not a very good team.
Yeah.
But still, like this is a group that certainly has struggled, but they got it done the other night and could have made a big difference on this one.
So there you go. The stat that stands out: 0 for 3 on the power play, 3 shots on goal against the Jets, but just one of the 6 games of the road trip. There are all these tight games where a power play goal here or there might have been able to propel them to a victory, a regulation victory, whatever the case. Without Elias Pettersson and other pieces, it's been a challenge. And I do want to double back here and talk a little bit about Quinn Hughes at the end of a road trip and his afternoon. But the stat that stands out, brought to you by Resurrection Spirits. And we're always telling you about the push to buy Canadian these days. And if you want to support a local company making a name in the spirit space, then check out Resurrection Spirits. It's an East Vancouver company crafting small batches of premium spirits using BC ingredients. Check out their website for a look at the whole product line: gin, vodka, rye, and more. And who doesn't love a deal? Right now, Resurrection Spirits is partnered with our friends at Sakaris & Price to create the S&P Gin, a limited run. So make sure you use the code S&P and you get $5 off a bottle. We do have a couple here in studio. Check out resurrectionspirits.ca. You can find out about that S&P Gin there, and you can check out the entire product line. All right, let's kind of turn to Quinn Hughes, because it goes hand in hand with a power play that wasn't exactly feeling it here on Sunday afternoon. You look at the final numbers for him: 27 minutes and 8 seconds, so not up over 30, but not that far off. A couple of shots on goal, but just didn't see the special sauce that makes him the great player, and it's understandable. Again, 6 long games, feeling the heat, trying to do it sort of all himself on a lot of shifts. Just wasn't the dynamic, wizard with the puck that we've come to expect from Quinn Hughes. And again, understandable at this late stage of the season and with the things that he has played through, but he is their best. He's still, through saying all that, he still remains their best chance to win hockey games is having Quinn Hughes put the team on his shoulder and do special things. And we've said it a few times on the trip here, and certainly these last 3 to wrap things up, just looks like the gas tank is running on low.
Certainly, with the puck. I mean, he's still getting the job done defensively. Playing big minutes, +7 in shot attempts at even strength tonight. It did stand out that he had played the entirety of all 3 power plays after 2 periods, and obviously, when he is, whatever it is he's dealing with, he's still able to motor. He's still able to go. The sort of the conditioning is there, but. It was like Friday night. I mean, I've mentioned this a couple places, but that it couldn't pull away from who was it?
Monahan.
Monahan. Thank you. Yeah. I think that was just such an example of a guy that that first step. I mean, a couple of people said, "Oh, he didn't have an angle." I'm like, "Well, it was the first step. Normally he would have pulled away. He's so good at creating space for himself." And then the metaphor. I mean, there was a bit of a metaphor that Lowry's goal happened with him trying to chat, and doing his job. And Adam Lowry, the big, huge defenseman, normally not, or big, huge forward, usually not a problem for Hughes, but just got beat on the rebound, and that was kind of the story there. And, later in a game when he's been playing a ton, trying to do everything he can, Quinn Hughes has been what the Canucks need their captain to be, as best as he can be. But, it also goes, I think, with the struggles on the power play.
Yeah.
And, I suppose there was that moment, remember, early when they pulled the goalie, Connor Garland circled the thing, looked off Quinn Hughes. I mean, normally you'd expect him to offload it there to Hughes. Here you go. And he just kept going because, is he thinking back and said, oh, man, I've got to give Quinn some help here. Somebody else has got to do it. He can't do everything. Well, it didn't really work out, and here we are.
Yeah, and look, I want to be careful here, so please hear me when I say I'm not dumping on Quinn Hughes. I'm just saying he remains their best option to propel this team to victory. And when he is mediocre by his standards and what we've come to expect, you notice it. But in saying that, as you said, I mean, his individual Corsi, 60.6%, was the best among the Canucks defenders, and a +3 on the shot differential was out there for the Appleton goal. And the Canucks only scored the one goal, and he wasn't on the ice for that. So
Appleton, sorry, I said Lowry, didn't I?
Well, Lowry got the first assist, so he was out there. But
I was thinking big forwards.
Fair enough, and that's not a fair fight if Quinn Hughes is trying to check Adam Lowry. I think Quinn knows his limitations. Boy, Adam Lowry could play on my team all day, every day, and a guy that just looks built for playoff hockey. So the Jets are going to play playoff hockey. The Vancouver Canucks look like they are going to miss. And as we said, you just look around before they step on the ice again on Wednesday against Seattle. St. Louis is at home to Detroit. Minnesota starting this road trip in New Jersey tomorrow. Calgary goes back-to-back at Colorado and at Utah. So all of these teams that are still battling in and around that wild card spot, they're all in action before the Canucks will suit up again Wednesday night. And Wednesday, by the way, is a 7:30 start. Just want to make note of that if you're planning to go to the game, or if you're a loyal Rink Wide viewer and listener and the
Late
live
night
stream.
Rink Wide.
Yeah, well, we'll be a little bit later. Rink Wide after dark. Well, I guess anytime they face off at 7 or 7:30. By the time we get going, it is after dark. Want to single out a couple of guys. We talked about Pius Suter and his road trip. Exceptional road trip for Kiefer Sherwood as well. And not just the point production, but he had back-to-back 3-point games on the island and in his hometown of Columbus the other day. 3 shots on goal, 10 more hits. The dependent or consistency, I guess, more than anything when it comes to the hit. Like double digits. If it was easy, lots of guys would be doing it, and yet he does it with regularity that's just wild. So 8 games to go. Let's see how hard he can take his record. Every time he hits a guy, it's adding to a record total. This wasn't as sort of noticeable a game, and then he took the high sticking penalty at 2-1 that didn't help the cause there in the third period. But again, never for lack of effort with Kiefer Sherwood, and in totality on this road trip he stood out as one of the best Vancouver Canucks.
12 points in March. After I think he'd slumped a little bit.
No question.
February, January, he had 1 goal. I don't think overall his game had changed all that much. It's just the reality of the player he is. I mean, obviously we know he can score goals in the minors, and translating that to the NHL it's a challenge for most players, and he certainly was finding some bounces in the first half. That second half was tough, but he's risen to the occasion, and has been a player that has been everything the Canucks want him to be. I mean, 17 goals. They signed him to be an energy guy.
I mean, 20 is not out of the question.
Not out of the question. And I just would like quietly, just to let the fans know, subtly, quietly, turns out really funny guy. Like everything is deadpan. Daniel Wagner and I discovered this the other day. Like you just start paying attention, you just realize everything is said with like the driest of humor, and that he's a very, very funny interview. So he is a bright spot on the season. I will fully say that.
Another guy that making the most of an opportunity. We know that, and this is quite the story too, with what's going on in Abbotsford on a 9-game win streak at the AHL level. Minus all these guys that are up playing for the NHL Canucks. Like, hats off to Ryan Johnson and Manny Malhotra, and certainly all the guys that have been getting the job done in the absence of players that are on these call-ups. But Atu Ratu scored twice the other night. Scored against his former team. That's great. You want to see him finding the offense. He's been a scorer at the American Hockey League. When he was called up, he was leading Abbotsford in scoring. So that part of it was great. But 2 ends of the ice, he took the early penalty. That's going to happen. But when I look at his underlying numbers, like at 5-on-5, the shots were 5-1 for the Canucks in this hockey game, and does his thing in the faceoff circle again. Wins 11 of 16 draws. Like that really is a separating skill. Both at the NHL level and down in the minors in this organization. As you start to project, next year, you'd love to see him spend the offseason, and I hope he will. Working on the foot speed.
Skating coach.
But the face-offs, it's something he brings to the mix here that nobody else sort of with that kind of consistency is able to deliver.
Well, and we've seen the strength. I mean, the 2 goals were no accident, right? Like, this is a guy that does have offensive instincts. I appreciate what he has brought. I think in his second go round, I mean, do we call this? I mean, third go round, whatever it is. I've lost track this season, but this latest go round, which I think feels like it's going to carry through to the end of the season anyway. You can see what's there, and I think there were maybe some questions about hockey IQ and that kind of thing. I haven't seen any issues with hockey IQ. In the end, it just comes down to the foot speed, and if he can add a little bit more, like Bo Horvat style, just add a little bit more of a gear. Add one more gear. Like, there's a player there. There's a guy that's going to be very, very useful. And just further on, on the point about the Abbotsford, like, they're missing him. They're missing the Karamaki. They're missing Carlson. They're missing Oman.
Sassen's up with this team.
Sassen, well, I guess technically he's around. Yeah, that's right. But like, they're missing guys that have been their top players. And they're getting the job done. Archie Baines, Sammy Blake, Christian Wolanin, Ty Mueller, Dylan Klonovich has 22 goals apparently. Like guys that are just, you haven't necessarily thought of, but getting it done, obviously getting some great goaltending too. Nikita Tolopilo really turning things around. Ty Young got sent back Kalamazoo today, by all accounts playing well. Like the Manny Malhotra, you said it. Manny Malhotra clearly deserves some credit here. Pulling this team together, and then Ryan Johnson forever deserves credit for all the work he did in the previous regime trying to keep the AHL team together, and now getting some actual support. So yeah, it's a good story for sure. And by the way, it actually brings me something I was thinking about with the Jets. 5 of their top 6 players drafted by the Jets. Then there's Hellebuck. You want to talk about draft and develop. There's a team that's done it.
And it has to, obviously. Yeah. They only have 2 free agents, and they're both fringe guys. I think Eric Comrie, the backup goalie, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but Nemesnikov maybe?
Yeah, Nemesnikov is a drive. But, in the end, a lineup that they've convinced to keep together. Like, Mark Scheifele's been there forever, right? Like, he's had a great career. He's stuck around. Like, Kyle Connor, similar kind of story. Like, guys that are like, no, this is a fun situation, fun way to play. They've had one GM ever since they moved from Atlanta, and Kevin Sheldayoff hasn't. He's been pretty good at building winners. Even if they've missed the playoffs here and there. Cole Perfetti, great. I already mentioned a great example. Like a team that has done things well, and a team that you could probably learn from in terms of how to keep people happy.
Well, we talked about the hardcores that don't want to give up the faith. I see the chat sort of getting sidelined here a little bit. People are now trying to figure out which team they should throw their support behind. Stick with us here for the remaining 8 at the very least.
Rink Wide. Throw your support behind Rink Wide.
Exactly. Rink Wide for the win. And Michael says, glad the Canucks are done with these ridiculous start times for a while.
No.
Not so much.
No.
If you looked ahead next Saturday, the Plucky Ducks come calling in a 1 o'clock start. So, yeah, the Rangers game was 10 a.m. Pacific. This one was noon. Progressively getting a little bit later, but, Saturday. Next weekend is weird. You don't see this one very often with the afternoon start on the Saturday and then back-to-back, but the late game on Sunday. So, Michael, I think that is it. After that, there's sort of more conventional start times. But one more matinee to come here before the Vancouver Canucks are officially done for the season. All right, Rick Tocchet has spoken to the media in Winnipeg. Let's hear from the head coach, get his thoughts, and we'll see if he sort of broadens the view, talks a little bit about the road trip as a whole. But here's Rick Tocchet after a 3-1 loss in Winnipeg.
Another strong start from your team, but not the outcome you'd like to see. Thoughts on the battle tonight?
We battled hard. Guys, really proud of the guys. Thought they played hard. Came down to, kind of a goal-mouth scramble. But I thought for the most part, that's a good hockey team that has a chance to win a cup, and I thought we went head-to-head them really well.
Full road trip, Rick, and I finished this 2-2-2, but the team never quit.
No.
They fought never again.
Nope. I thought the guys played really hard tonight. Really proud of them.
8 games left now. You get to go home for a couple. How do you use that home crowd advantage?
Well, I got a couple days to regroup. You just got to worry about the next game. I'm sure the guys are disappointed. It's a 1-1 game going to third. Seems like we've had a lot of these over the last bunch of times, and we're coming. Thought lately we've been coming up with some nice plays, nice moments, but tonight we're just on the wrong side.
Rick, there's been a lot of coaches come through and say the Jets seem to play the same way no matter what the score of the game is. Is that kind of what you saw today as well?
Yeah, I mean it was a good hockey game in the sense that I think both teams checked hard. I think I don't know how many chances we had in the second. They only had 3, so I liked our game. We had some chances, and then obviously, they threw the puck on net there, and they outmuscled us, got that goal.
What can you say about Pius Suter? Increased minutes responsibility since Pettersson went down?
Yeah, I mean, he's taken a leadership role. He's one of the guys that has really stepped up for me. Play him in all situations.
Feels like he's been asked about Pius Suter after every game, but rightly so when he's the only guy that scores for your hockey club. And on a night when there wasn't a whole lot happening offensively, we talked about the chances that he had as well. And not surprised at the tone right off the top there.
We heard him enough.
Pumping his guys up. They played hard against the best team in the National Hockey League. They just don't measure up skill for skill, especially minus some of the top end guys that are out of the lineup. So as usual, I think Rick Tocchet's generally got a pretty good post game feel for the way things. Like I generally agree with not everything that he says, but for the most part, in his summation of the game itself.
He speaks honestly. He's never trying to and he's talked to us about this, right? Like he knows he generally tries to answer the questions fairly, treat the questions with sort of respect, and give an answer that is as truthful as he can be. And he's not going out of his way usually to throw somebody under the bus or criticize someone too harshly. He wants to be fair and honest. I smiled a little bit when the question was thrown about how do the Jets play it different. So he sort of. And I gave you the kind of, okay, I'll give you an answer here, but I'm also not going to acknowledge them too much, which we've seen before, but also not sort of getting mad at the question itself or attacking whatever. But listen, a guy that knows the truth, which is that his team played hard, and as we said, worked their butts off. And just, came down to a couple moments and they couldn't finish and the other team did. And the other team's trying to win a Stanley Cup and he knows his team isn't.
The Winnipeg Jets defeat the Vancouver Canucks by a score of 3-1. This portion of Rink Wide Vancouver, a presentation of the Pacific Toyota dealers who want to tell you about the Toyota BZ4X, 100% electric, backed by the peace of mind of knowing it's a Toyota and that spark of joy you get when you pass the gas station knowing that you don't have to stop. It has all sorts of payload capacities, so room for a bunch of kids, all their hockey gear or ski equipment, whatever the case. Maybe it's baseball season now, or bats and balls and batting machine. I don't know what you put in the back there. BZ4X is up to the challenge. It can handle any terrain as well. Take you from the city to the slopes to the baseball diamond. And if you choose the BZ4X right now, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives, and you can finance the 2025 BZ4X from 3.29% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. We talked a lot about Connor Hellebuck earlier on. We've mentioned his name in passing, but the guy at the other end of the ice made some saves to keep it a 1-1 tie into the third period. Didn't love the Kyle Connor goal, but again, that's a goal scorer. And Leon Draisaitl scored a somewhat similar-looking goal in overtime last night for the Oilers to defeat the Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
Again, when we talked about the Canucks' best path to victory being Quinn Hughes, I suppose a close second would be Thatcher Demko at the height of his powers.
Yeah.
Outdueling Connor Hellebuck. It didn't happen this afternoon. What did you sort of your overarching takeaways of Thatcher Demko's?
I mean, you kind of set it up there. This is no knock against Thatcher Demko, but in the end, he did get outdueled by Connor Hellebuck,
as most do.
As most do.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad saying. I mean, Demko gave them a chance to win, right? Like he was in the game, and in the end, obviously, a couple of goals that go against them by I think tired players, broken players in front of them. Other than you said, the Connor goal, can't really fault him on either one of those. Maybe he'd like to put that puck somewhere else that Appleton whacked in, but Perfetti was halfway in midair when he made the finish. It was a spectacular play, and Thatcher Demko doesn't score goals, right? Like,
nope.
That's the simple reality.
He's not responsible for the power play that struggled along there. On most of the road trip as well. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's good news that he is back. He played 3 games on the trip now. Yeah. Got the wins in Jersey and the island. Made some spectacular stops there. As I look through my notes, this wasn't an afternoon of grade A, absolute thievery from Thatcher Demko, but some of that is Thatcher Demko just, positionally sound, making the stops, and I'm sure he would have loved to have made one more save off the Perfetti chance just to keep it at 2-1 so the Canucks had a last-ditch effort. Didn't happen there. Look, we've talked about the road trip, the effort level, buy-in, and all that kind of stuff, playing right down to the final buzzer on a couple of nights and then beyond. Lots of solid individual efforts. If there was a disappointing performance, I think for me, start to finish on the road trip, probably Jake DeBrusk, who picked up assists, and he does get the second assist on the Pia Suter goal. So he's on the score sheet this afternoon, but his lone goal, a power play goal the other night in Columbus, that was his only goal on the road trip. And, one goal in 9 games at crunch time right now when he's one of their leading scorers, like Brock Besser's come to life after going 12 without. And we talked a lot of during that 12-game stretch of Brock, and they need more from him. He's answered with a bushel full of goals. Still waiting for streaky Jake DeBrusk to show up. You were hoping that getting one the other in Columbus might open the floodgates a little for him, but just too many nights where he didn't look all that dangerous on this road trip.
And, you and I were talking about this the other day, actually. I was sort of sat back, he's scoring on the power play, so what do we want? He is getting you goals, but I think it is a reminder of it.
Not of late, though.
No, but
on the season, sure.
And my point in the end was that in the end, he's not the elite winger that this team needs, right? Like, he is like Brock Besser. He's a very good complementary sort of number 2 winger if you want to rank them, but he's not a lead guy. And the Canucks he's a reminder the Canucks need a lead. They do need a Kyle Connor type player. And they need a center, but they really need a winger. If they're going to be a true contender, and they probably need Jonathan Lekkerimäki to develop into that kind of player. I'm not sure that really is his ceiling, but that's where they're at. There's sort of, if you're putting a shine on the season, there's lots of good, and the heart's there. There's some interesting defensemen, but in the end, your team is only going to be as good as your top players are. And Jake DeBrusk has been good, but not great. And as you said, struggled lately. And while they're getting good play from Suter and Besser, they do need more from DeBrusk given the circumstances.
Yeah, and look, 24 goals, he'll get to 25, and for $5.5 million, I think we all looked at him and thought 25 goal scorer. The chemistry with Elias Pettersson, it probably hasn't materialized the way that we thought it would, and that was the reason he was brought in to play. They went and signed a winger for Elias Pettersson. We know PD struggles throughout the year, and he's not in the lineup right now, but start to finish for DeBrusk, and look, he came as advertised. He's been streaky, and you just would like to see him finish with a streak in the right direction here. Unfortunately, it's been a little bit quiet, and all these tight games where a goal could make a difference, you look to the candidates to score goals, and he is certainly at the top of the list for the Canucks. So I just thought from a goal scoring perspective, at the very least, a little too quiet for Jake DeBrusk. Let's take a look at our line of the night, a presentation of Bet365. Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner, every face-off, hat-trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing, whatever the moment. Never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. And we are going to look at one of the games on the Monday schedule, the Minnesota Wild starting a trip through the New York area at the Prudential Center. I guess if you think that Minnie is the team that the Canucks are trying to catch, then you want those Devils to get out there and get the job done. They beat Minnesota at XL Energy Center 5-2 on Saturday. I think they can get it done again. So I'm looking at Jersey on the spread, winning by more than 2 goals, or by more than 1.5. So 2 goals or more. You can get the Devils at plus 170. That is the line of the night. All right, so the Canucks will get home, gain a couple hours flight time, so should be home, I would think, by the dinner hour, basically, tonight. Again, Monday will probably be a full team day off, and then get back at it at practice on Tuesday. Seattle's here on Wednesday, then a few more days off. Anaheim Saturday afternoon, Vegas in on Sunday night. That's the 3-game homestand. Seattle, they've been eliminated for a while now. Shipped out some assets at the trade deadline. Got whipped 5-1 by Dallas last night. One of those scheduling quirks. They play Dallas again. Dallas in Seattle for a pair of games this weekend, the Saturday, Monday. Seattle opened the scoring last night, 1 minute and 27 seconds in, and that was it. 5 unanswered goals by the Stars. Kraken are 1-3-1 in their last 5, but the lone win was pretty convincing over the Oilers the other night. No McDavid, no Draisaitl there. But Seattle has struggled on the road this year, although one of their 14 road wins, a memorable one here, a 5-4 overtime victory when they were down 4-1 with 5 minutes to go. And you look at the Canucks season, I mean,
Talk about points that were dropped. There's
oh my
one.
goodness, yeah. So Kraken have beaten the Canucks in 2 of their first 3 meetings. We'll see how things play out here. Jaden Schwartz leads them with 23 goals. Eli Tolvanen has 22, and he's been a nice waiver wire pickup for the Kraken. Jared McCann leads the team with 52 points. Something you might not know about the Kraken, only Colorado and Columbus have more goals from defensemen this season than the Seattle Kraken. Brandon Wanter has 16. Vince Dunn has 11, including a couple here in that crazy comeback game right after Christmas. So we'll see what Wednesday night brings. That is going to be the next matchup for the Vancouver Canucks. And again, I hope we can get some sort of injury update on those guys and just a sense of, whether any of them is being shut down entirely or if there's an outside chance that we see any reinforcements coming for the Vancouver Canucks on this 3-game homestand or any of the 8 games that remain. We told you a little earlier about the Canucks Army Watch Party, April the 10th, gathering for a chance to watch the Canucks in Colorado at Greta Bar. Doors are open at 5 o'clock. Game is at 6, and it's all presented by Fountain Tire and in support of Kids Sport Vancouver. General admission tickets are $10. You can snag a VIP package, $40. That gets you a burger, a beer, and an arcade game card. Have to be 19 plus to attend. Secure your spot now. Join the Canucks Army crew for a fun night. Tickets are on sale at nationgear.ca. All right, end of the line for the Canucks after 6 long nights, or more than 6 nights, but 6 games out on the road. Saw a little bit of everything from this hockey club, but in the end, not enough. And they started the trip above the playoff bar. They went into St. Louis, tied with the Blues, but they were on the right side of the playoff bar.
And then the Blues won 1,000,000 games in a row.
And the Blues just showing no signs of ever losing again. And for the Vancouver Canucks, 2-2-2 wasn't going to get it done, and ultimately it doesn't. And so now 6 points back of both St. Louis and Minnesota. That's the way things stand. So 6 points back, 8 games to go, not officially mathematically eliminated, but you can read the writing on the wall in big block printing.
I will take a ridiculous chase like they did under Rick Tocchet his first year here, when it was sort of, everything kept happening for them. They kept in it. I will take that, even though we know the inevitable is looming on the horizon.
All right.
I don't know when I'm back, but this has been fun.
No, it's always fun when you.
Great.
I'm glad you spent some of your sunny Sunday in here in studio with us. Were you busy writing about the game as well?
No.
Oh, you had the
Coos
day.
game.
Okay.
It's just a pure rink wide
All
today,
right,
Jeff.
so
just you
Coos
and the
with
fans.
the post-game thoughts, and you can read about that at
Yeah.
Post Media. And don't forget all the coverage at Canucks Army as well. Instant reaction to this game is already up. The Stanchies and the Statsies will follow. I've got a Monday mailbag.
Let's say the mailbag.
Well, I got to go to work. The workday's not done yet. This is just the first part of the workday, so we'll have a Monday mailbag as well. We always tell you at the tail end of the program, if you're watching on the live stream, you see our social channels there, give us a follow and subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel because when the season's done, we'll still be pumping out fresh and unique content, and you don't want to miss any. So if you subscribe, you'll get a notification anytime we drop new Canucks content, even if they're not playing. Still lots to talk about with this hockey club. You know that drill by now. But that's going to do it for us here on this Sunday. Mike Rogerson helping out behind the scenes. We appreciate all of his assistance in getting us up and running. Patrick Johnson from Post Media, my co-host. Irf will be back with me on Wednesday, but that's going to do it. The final score one more time. The Winnipeg Jets 3. The Vancouver Canucks 1. The road trip is over. The boys are heading on home, and so are we. That's going to do it. Thanks so much for listening and viewing another episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.